Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really close look at the career of singer Amerie. She made quite a splash back in the early 2000s.
She really did.
And we've pulled together a whole stack of sources here that give us a lot to explore. Things about her unique sound, her path in the music industry, and, well, some pretty long-standing fan observations about, let's say, alleged similarities between her and another global superstar, Beyoncé.
That's right. And our mission today is basically to dig into the details these sources are giving us. We're talking specific outfits, key producers, career choices, even recent updates.
Yeah, let's see what story this particular information tells us about Amerie's journey.
The sources really paint a picture of the early 2000s. Amerie looked like she was poised for huge success.
Absolutely. But then just as her peers, and yeah, notably Beyoncé, were really ascending, like rapidly, Amerie seemed to step back a bit.
And what our sources suggest, or at least put forward, is that maybe this rise of others was somehow connected to, well, recreating parts of Amerie's whole package. Her look, her sound, even how she performed.
It's a strong claim.
It is. And the sources promise to show us the receipts, as they call them, looking at these alleged instances of copying, outfits, producers, performance styles, down to the nitty-gritty details.
Okay, let's dive in. Starting right at the beginning. Amerie's debut. Her first album, All I Have, that dropped in 2002.
Right. And you got to remember the R&B landscape back then. It was packed. Destiny's Child was kind of winding down, but Alicia Keys was huge. Mary J. Blige was always a force.
Totally. But Amerie, she somehow carved out her own niche, like, instantly, with that massive first single, Why Don't We Fall in Love?
Oh, yeah. That song was everywhere. Such a sultry, mid-tempo track. Really showed off her vocals, and she had this swagger.
Yeah. And interestingly, the sources really zoom in on the music video for that song, some specific visual points they make.
They do. Like, the main thing is just Amerie walking.
Just walking down the street. And the outfit details, they point out the white tank top, the blue denim shorts, and specifically red high heels.
Red heels, okay.
Yeah.
And this is where the sources draw that first comparison. They say that in 2003, so the next year, Beyoncé's first solo video, Crazy in Love.
Yeah.
Well, the source describes it as featuring almost the exact same outfit down to the color of the heels, meaning red heels again. And like Amerie's video, a big focus was just on her walking.
Just walking. Okay. Now, the sources do admit, right, that the outfit thing could be a coincidence. Fair enough.
It could. But then they pivot pretty quickly to something they frame as not a coincidence. And that's the producer connection.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Rich Harrison. The sources basically call him the architect behind Amerie's entire first album, All I Have. He put it out on his own label, Cully Richcraft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he wrote, produced, and executive produced it. He created what the sources call those signature mid-tempo songs that define the album.
And Amerie herself, there's a quote in the sources about working with him, right?
Yeah, she said, for some reason we had a very special chemistry. When we would work together, something great would happen. You get that sense of real synergy.
Definitely. And their shared vision, according to these sources, was about blending soulful melodies with really hard-hitting hip-hop beats.
Exactly. Amerie's quoted saying they knew that fusing beautiful melodies with hard hip-hop beats would move people. So that was the goal.
And this collaboration, him writing and producing, her writing and singing, the sources describe them as a duo just in perfect creative sync back then.
Yeah, they kept working together after that first album, too.
Which brings us to Rich Harrison also producing Amerie's huge hit from her second album, One Thing, in 2005. That song was massive.
Huge. And the sources point out that critics at the time, magazines like Vibe and Billboard, were actually saying Beyoncé and Amerie had virtually the same sound.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they kind of contrast Beyoncé's pop R&B with Amerie's more go-go inflected R&B sound.
And I guess the sources argue that having Rich Harrison's very distinct production, his fingerprints on both One Thing and Crazy in Love, well, that just fueled those comparisons even more.
It inevitably deepened them, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Now, what about Amerie's own take on all this? Working with Harrison, the comparisons.
Right. The sources say she would usually just laugh off questions about Harrison being Beyoncé's, secret weapon.
Oh.
Her quote is, "We both wanted that raw kinetic energy in our tracks, but I think he gave each of us exactly what he needed."
How do the sources interpret that?
Well, the sources kind of read between the lines. They interpret that quote as Amerie professionally saying, Beyoncé wanted my sound, so she paid the guy who made it. But crucially, that's the source's interpretation, not Amerie saying it directly.
Gotcha. That's an important distinction. And did Amerie elaborate anywhere else?
Yeah, in another interview mentioned, she apparently explained it more simply. Like, lots of artists wanted to work with Rich Harrison, and he needed to, quote, play some songs elsewhere because he's trying to grow and make his name as a producer.
Okay, so a business perspective.
Seems like it. And then there was her appearance on the Joe Budden podcast. They asked her straight up about that old rumor that Crazy in Love was originally meant for her.
Oh, yeah, that rumor's been around forever. What does she say?
Her direct quote was, "I didn't hear anything about it." And she clarified, he never played that record for me.
Okay, so a direct denial of that specific rumor.
Seems so. And the sources make a point of saying that, based on their research, Amerie has never publicly accused Beyoncé of copying her look or her sound. It's really the fans who've kept pointing out these similarities over the years.
Right. And those fan observations, according to the sources, went beyond just the look or the music. They started talking about performance style, too.
Interesting. How so?
Well, the sources kind of contrast performing in a group versus going solo. Different dynamic.
Sure.
And they describe Amerie's early solo performance style, which was apparently really influenced by her living in the DMV area, D.C., Maryland, Virginia. Very percussion heavy.
Okay. Like go-go music.
Exactly. Lots of reliance on her band-centric staging, that kinetic go-go call and response thing, percussion-first arrangements where the rhythm section is just driving everything.
Right. I can picture that.
So the sources then note that around 2003, 2004, during Beyoncé's Dangerously in Love tour, she started adding similar percussive interludes, stripping things back to just raw live drums, quote, the same way as Amerie. The sources phrase it as looking almost as if it was inspired by Amerie's performance style.
Okay, so the sources lay out these parallels. The look in the video, the sound via the shared producer, and now the performance style elements. Where do they go next in Amerie's story?
They move forward to her third album, Because I Love It, which came out in 2007. And interestingly, it was actually a hit over in Europe.
Oh, okay, but not here in the U.S.
Not so much. And the sources say it basically became a poster child for what could go wrong with album distribution here.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Well, her label, Columbia, apparently made these exclusive U.S. CD deals, first with Walmart, then later with FYE, which, was a big music store back then.
Right, I remember FYE.
But this meant the album wasn't shipped through the normal wholesale channels. So places like Best Buy, Target, they just didn't get it.
Wow. So fans literally couldn't find it easily in regular stores.
Pretty much. And the result, according to the sources, the album didn't chart at all on the Billboard Top 200 or any other Billboard chart, apparently.
Ouch. That's gotta hurt an album's momentum.
Hugely. And by 2009, around the time her fourth album, In Love and War, came out, the sources indicate that Amerie and Columbia had quietly parted ways.
Okay. So what did she do then? Chase another major deal?
Apparently not. The sources suggest that instead of potentially getting shuffled into projects that were not hers at another major label, she chose to consciously hit pause on her music career to focus on other things.
Hit pause. And this wasn't just like a year off, right? The sources mentioned something pretty drastic she revealed later.
Yeah, this is wild. On that Joe Budden podcast again, she revealed she deliberately stopped listening to other music artists for 10 years.
10 years? Wow, why?
She explained it herself.
Yeah.
The quote is, I went through like 10 years where I didn't listen to anything. If I heard someone's record and thought, damn, that's fire, I get mad at myself for not being ready to write something that good.
Whoa, that's intense. Avoiding inspiration almost, or maybe comparison.
Exactly. And the sources kind of interpret this period of avoidance. They suggest it could have been a time for healing, maybe a way to stop comparing herself and her success to others.
And they specifically mentioned Beyoncé in that interpretation.
They do. But also, maybe it was just a deliberate choice to give herself space, to hear her own creative voice without all that outside noise.
Makes sense. So what was she doing during that decade-long music break?
Well, the sources say she really discovered storytelling through books. She's actually authored 2 short fiction anthologies.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and her debut novel, This Is Not a Ghost Story, is apparently coming out very soon, June 10th of this year, 2025.
Wow, okay. Good for her.
Totally. She also launched a book club vlog, got into beauty and lifestyle content, and became a mom, had her first child in 2018. So a lot going on outside of music.
Definitely sounds like a significant shift in exploring other creative sides, but the pause didn't last forever, right? The sources bring us up to date.
Right. Fast forward to late 2024. Amerie announced Mine, her first new single in over a decade.
She's back.
She is. And she's been sharing bits on social media about recording a new album. And the sources specifically note that this new single, Mine, it sounds like, will signature Amerie.
What do they mean by that exactly? Her signature sound?
It's not just the production, according to them. It's her voice. The way she sings with this kind of urgency. They describe it as her voice racing with the percussion to keep the beat.
Huh. Almost using her soprano like another rhythm instrument.
Kind of, yeah. Keeping the beat with her voice in soprano.
It's
a really unique vocal style they identify as hers.
Interesting. So quite a journey we've traced through these sources.
Definitely. From those early fan observations about similarities, the look, the sound, the performance style between her and Beyoncé.
Looking at those specific video details, that crucial Rich Harrison producer connection.
Hearing Amerie's own perspective as reported in interviews and podcasts.
Then seeing how those distribution issues really impacted her career trajectory.
Understanding that really deliberate 10-year hiatus from even listening to music.
Her pivot into writing and other projects.
And now, her recent return to releasing new music. That sounds like her.
It really does highlight how valuable it is to dig into the details that sources like these provide. You start to see the complex picture, right? All the different factors shaping an artist's career in the music business.
Absolutely. It's never just one thing. It's creative partnerships. It's industry mechanics like distribution. It's personal choices. It's navigating comparisons. All of it plays a huge role.
Yeah, so many internal and external forces. And thinking about all this, especially that detail from the sources about her consciously choosing to avoid listening to other music for a whole decade, just to protect her own creative space. In this world we live in now, just saturated with influences, constant comparisons online, what does her journey, based only on what we've covered from this material, make you think about? You know, about the challenge, but also the importance of finding and really holding on to your own unique voice, whether you're an artist or really doing anything creative.
Yeah, it definitely gives you something to think about. How do you carve out that space? How do you stay true to your own thing?
Exactly. Food for thought.